All right, so we got this Eton Rover in the shop today. We've had this thing for over a year, and it was bought new by my uncle. He let the grandkids drive a little bit, and for some reason it wouldn't start after winter, probably a carb. Well, when we got it, we've done a bunch of electrical. It has an electric shifting differential. So basically you got a little switch right here. You got neutral, forward, and then reverse. I don't know if these are bad about going out, but I know the motor is out on it. Basically, to put the electric motor on would be, it seems like around $100 bucks. I don't know, it could be cheaper, but I think it's a 90cc. We're getting rid of it. We're just going to put a Tillotson 212 on it, which we don't have right now. We're using this engine as a mock-up engine. This is an old Predator, but we're going to use electric start Tillotson 212 from the boys at Go Power Sports, and we're putting Go Power Sports reverse gearbox on it. We just put a video out on how to make this little bracket for it, so it'll slide all as one unit on an engine plate. Speaking of engine plates, we're going to use Go Power Sports 1/4 inch thick, smaller engine plate. This is like their 301 size, and that'll give us a ton of movement in our engine setup with the reverse gearbox. So for performance parts, we're just going to be taking out the governor and putting 18-pound valve springs, running a 24mm true Mikuni from Go Power Sports. These are the best carb to run on a small block engine. They have an air filter adapter, so you can use their standard air filters with their pre-filters, so that's pretty sick. So we'll be running that, and other than removing the governor and putting the carb on and the valve springs, that's pretty much it. We're going to leave the stock flywheel because we want the charging coils. We'll be doing a oil catch can, the oil drain hose so you don't get oil everywhere when you drain your engine, new key switch and wiring harness that we'll make, and also a tack. So everything is linked down below. Like I said, this is not the engine we're using, just a mock-up engine. So first, we have to disassemble the hoe back in on this. It looks like we have to take the roll cage off, and it's going to be a lot of, we got to remember how we take this thing apart. It looks like this plastic comes off. We already have the gas tank off where we was cleaning on it like a year ago. Found out the electronics, there's a bunch of electronics bad on this thing. Then we got to take off the roll cage through these access holes they give you, and then we can remove this shroud and start modifying. We're going to try to use the existing axle, you know, so we don't have to do anything like that, but we may end up putting a Go Power Sports axle on it if stuff doesn't line up. It just depends.
Or if it's really sketchy because it looks narrow and tall.
Yeah, this thing would flip very easy. So,
well, it's not meant for grown people, and we're putting grown people on it with a more powerful engine.
Yeah, we should be able to run like 50 on this thing. So let's get to disassemble this thing, take the roll cage off, and take these plastics off. We already got the seat unbolted too. We're already halfway there.
Boom. We're almost done.
There's half of it. A bunch of old sticks and whatnot. The gas tank sits right here and bolts up to there, and I believe somewhere's up here. I can't remember, but I know that's 2 of the mounts for the gas tank.
Not too bad.
Something.
There we go.
So we just got to take off the throttle cable and the choke. There's 2 12mm nuts on the throttle cable, kind of like jam nuts, and then the little Phillips head on this choke. We got the whole wiring harness unplugged, and basically all we'll have to do is take the top shock bolt out, and then the 2 swing arm bolts, and this whole engine setup will swing or slide right out. It does look like we're going to have to replace the axle because the chain coming out over here and our reverse gearbox chain is over here. So we're going to remove the axle, probably widen it just a little bit, and we also got to take off the brake and the e-brake cable, which is right here. So now we got to take off this oil cooler. Looks like 2 10s or 8s. There she is. She is free.
So when are you gonna get that automatic?
All right, so to get this engine off, we're gonna remove the chain by first taking the chain cover off, and then we can take the master link out. Then we have one 14 millimeter bolt, 14 millimeter socket fits it, metric bolt right here, and then we have 2 in the front. So we have one there and one there. So that's all we have to do to take this engine set up off. So we're gonna first start taking the chain off. There we go. My bent tip. Oh wait, no, my tip's good. Mine's broke.
Hi, Debbie.
Sorry. We're rough on tools and knives. Chains
A
well.
knife is a tool.
You're a tool.
Well, that was uncalled for.
You got it? Yep.
Jeepers,
So
Mr.
there we go.
You're
And
really
bam.
strong.
Look how new this thing was. Still had the wrap around the shock when I got it. It's gonna be way better with the Tillotson because Go Power Sports sells cams, all types of crazy stuff, some crazy heads for them. So we can make
it's gonna be a
this.
huge upgrade in power for sure.
We can make this extremely kid dangerous. If we wanted to.
The way that thing's built looks kid dangerous.
Yeah. All right, so what we've decided to do with this swing arm is we're not going to use the swing arm. We're going to use a piece of it. We're going to keep these 2 bushings are welded together with this tube. So we're going to cut this off on each side, and we're going to keep this because this is exactly where our pivot points are. We'll cut these off and get rid of those, and then we'll build a new swing arm off of that. So it'll be pretty easy. We can do it out of square tubing and do 45-degree cuts, welded at the corners, or we can do round tubing and just do 2 bends, 2 90-degree bends, making a U. I don't know what we're gonna do yet, but we'll do it and show you. All right, so this is how we're going to lay out the swing arm. We did some 45-degree cuts on this 1/8-inch thick square tubing. This is 1-inch square tubing, 1/8-inch thick wall. It's really nice building swing arms out of square tubing because everything butts up to it. You don't have to notch anything, and you're not going to see it at the end of the day, so it's perfectly fine. So we took the old pivot point off the old swing arm, cut it. Lonnie cleaned everything up really nice, and we're going to butt the square tubing up to this right here. This is how the swing arm went. It dropped down on the buggy, and we're going to keep that same thing. So we'll do that last. So we did these at 24 inches from the long side of the 45 to the end. This is 17 inches from the long side to long side. So we're going to square it up using our quantum table from Sigmund. And we have all these stops, these bolts and everything. It's super handy because we can basically lay it out like this. And once you tighten these down, they're dead square on the table. Then we'll take these 90s and we can basically put it behind just like this. Then we can take another one, put in between here to make up the difference between this. So, put a stop back here, so I can adjust everything. So now, if we push this square up into this corner and push everything in here, we know if we're against this and against this, we're dead square on this side. So we can put our clamp down. Pull against it. Okay.
Yep.
Still look good?
Yes, sir.
So now that we have our swing arm all tacked together, and most of it's fully welded out, but there's still a little bit of welding to do, we can start our axle hangers. Now, I set the axle and the tires on the axle in front. Now I'm giving it a little bit of poke on each side, like maybe an inch, inch and a half. So I've measured it, and I'm gonna have to cut a total of 9 inches off this axle. Sorry, 8 inches off this axle. So I'll pull it, I'll cut 4 inches off of each side because I want to get rid of the threaded part, and what's going to hold the hubs in place are these locking collars. Go Power Sports sells these. They are linked down below. You can use these on each side of your sprocket, each side of your brake rotor, and one in front and behind your wheel hubs to keep stuff from moving. Now I don't line up the keyways that you can see there. I actually offset the key, and this will also keep the key in your sprocket. So we can pull everything off this axle, cut it down to size, and then we can start putting our hubs and stuff on, mocking up how our axle hangers are going to be. We're going to do one on this center, this middle bar, and then we're going to build some extensions all the way out to behind the wheel hubs to give it strength so we'll never bend an axle. All right, guys, so we got the whole swing arm done and on the cart. Now, on the next episode, we're going to mount the shocks up and get those in the right position. And then it's really just hooking up the wiring harness and riding it. I didn't do the little portals because there's only about 3 inches of axle that's exposed on each side. And this is going to be a kid's vehicle. So hopefully we don't bend the axle. We say that a lot. But we ride them pretty hard. But this is mainly for, you know, my son to ride around and play around on. So I don't think that little bit of 3-inch axle was worth extending the those bearings out that much further. So what we can do to stiffen up the axle is that little bit exposed is you can put a piece of thick walled pipe on it with a 1-inch inside diameter, slide it on there, and it'll help to strengthen it up. So on the next episode, we'll get the shocks mounted, we'll make the wiring harness, and we can start putting the body back on. We got to fab up the exhaust, and then this thing will be able to rip snort around. I'm pretty excited to see how this thing handles. So we'll ride it for a little bit, pull the swing arm off again, and paint everything, get it all buttoned up. So look forward to the next episode where we finish everything out. And don't forget to check out those links in the video's description. They do help us out a ton, and everything we use in this video and what we're going to use in the rest of the series will be linked down below. So make sure to check that out. Support your boy, and thank you guys for watching. We love you, and God bless.